everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And for today's review, we're going to take a look at the new Firefly Legacy Collection 6-inch Malcolm Reynolds figure from Funko Toys. Now this figure comes packaged in the same style of packaging we've seen with Funko's other Legacy Collection lines like their Game of Thrones. You've got the Firefly logo up at the top along with the Legacy Collection. It tells us this is figure number 1 off in the corner, and then the figure is clearly displayed in the window box packaging. Then down below we have a little thumbnail image for Malcolm Reynolds and the name of the character. On one side of the packaging it's basically just open so you can see the figure from the side, and then on the other side we just again have the Firefly logo, a picture of the ship from the series, and again a thumbnail image of Malcolm Reynolds. Then finally on the back of the packaging we again have the Firefly logo, the Legacy Collection logo, a full image of Malcolm Reynolds from the TV show, and a listing of all 5 figures in this wave. And then down below we have the 20th Century Fox logo, the Funko logo, and it tells us it's powered or basically sculpted, the figure sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging, and I would have to say this is an okay looking figure. I don't really think they did a good job with the face sculpt on this one. I don't think they did a good job of capturing Nathan Fillion's look for it. Otherwise, I think the paint applications are pretty solid. I like the wash work throughout, like on the leather coat and his shirt and his boots, how they give that kind of worn leather look. So I think that comes off looking good. Even on like the gun holster, I think I really like the wash work on the brown. So I think that comes off looking good. The coat itself is a separate piece, and it's that kind of vinyl material that we see used a lot with figures. The thing though is that even though the jacket itself is removable, the sleeves are sculpted on the figure, so you know it's not like you can really take his jacket off because it would look funny because it still have the sleeves. But it does, you know, being a separate piece, it gives the figure, you know, allows the figure to retain its mobility even though the jacket comes down over his waist and everything. The skin tones are not too bad. Again, just that head sculpt or that face sculpt, I just don't think it looks very good. It just did not capture the overall look to me, and just kind of the eyes look a little dead. So I don't really like the face sculpt on this one. The gun belt is a separate piece, but it's glued on the figure, and then he's just got the beige pants with the brown stripe. And again, I like the washworks on the boots. I think those look pretty good. Now I do really like the accessories and how they come off looking. So he comes with these old style western type guns. He's got the rifle, and I like the metallic gunmetal that they've used, and then the washwork on the browns for the wood. I think that comes off looking good, and the sculpting detail on it's really nice too for the rifle. So I think that the rifle is really nice looking, and the pistol is pretty nice looking too. They've used it, it's a gold color, but again they've given it a washwork to give it that worn metal look, which I think comes off looking really nice. And he's got that working gun holster, so the pistol itself fits in the holster and it fits in nice and tight, so no problems there. He can hold the weapons in either hand, but he's got the trigger finger on his right hand, so that's the best hand to get him to hold his weapons. And you just kind of have to pry it in there and get that finger in the trigger, but he holds the gun nice and tight. Now, getting him to hold the rifle is a little more tricky because the rifle itself doesn't really have a handle for him to hold. So you got to kind of pry the fingers into the trigger guard there and then get him to hold the end of the gun with his other hand. So once you get the fingers in there, you know, he does hold the rifle pretty good, but again, it can be a little tricky to kind of like maneuver the fingers into that trigger guard. So this figure stands about 6 1/4 inches tall. Now I don't have any of the other Firefly figures to give you a scale comparison, so I don't know how good the scale overall is for the line. But here he is next to Hasbro's 6-inch Black Series Han Solo figure, and you can see he is a little bit taller than Han Solo. Nathan Fillion, I think, is kind of a tall guy, so I don't know, it's just with this comparison the scale seems to be pretty good. So our articulation on the figure is not bad. Now I don't like how some of these joints come off looking on the figure. Other than the face sculpt, my biggest complaint is with how some of the joints look. Most notably with his wrists. You can see the little pegs on his wrists are actually kind of exposed, and I think that definitely looks pretty funny. I also don't like the elbow joints. You can see on his right arm that how that joint on his elbow, that hinge kind of sticks out a little bit. So I think that looks a little funny. And then he's got this midsection joint, which if you have him look back at all, you get this gaping hole in his midsection, so I don't really like that either. But as far as movement goes, the figure, the articulation is not too bad. He's got that standard ball joint on the head, so he can look left and right, and he's got up and down movement. He's got the standard ball hinge joint on the arm, so he can get his arm out pretty good, and he's got good rotation there at the arm. He does not have a bicep swivel, but he does have the swivel at the elbow. He's got good bending at the elbow. And then he's got hinges on the wrists. So he's got swivel, and then he's got good up and down movement there at the wrist. Again, I just don't like how the peg on the wrist is exposed on this figure. He's got the midsection joint, so he's got some pivot there. He's got rotation there. And he's got a little bit of crunch movement there, and he can again look back, but again you get that gaping hole there in the midsection when you have him looking back. He does not have a waist swivel. Legs are attached with standard ball joints, so he can do the splits good. He can get his leg forward pretty good. He can't really do his leg back at all. He's got the thigh swivel, and then he's got the double hinged knee, so he's got pretty good bending at the knees. Now, with the knees, I will tell you that the very soft rubbery material for those knee joints, so he definitely suffers from that kind of gummy joint syndrome there at the knees. And then I just have to note on my figure, when I was moving it around, this lower peg on the knee actually came out. I was able to put it back in without any problem, but just something to note on mine. And something you might want to be wary of is that joint just kind of slid out when I was moving it around. He doesn't have a swivel at the boot cuff, but he does have ankle pivot, so good movement there at the ankle. No peg holes on the bottom of his feet on this one. And overall, the joints maybe are a little bit loose, especially here at the knees, at least on mine. But overall, like breakage issues, I've really not had any problems with, other than again that peg slid out. But I don't really call that a breakage, since I was able to put it back in without any problem. But like if you saw my reviews of the Legacy Collection Game of Thrones figures from that first wave, I definitely had a lot of breaking, snapping joints issues with those figures, and I've not had any problems with this one so far. Okay, so that's my review. Overall, I would say this is an okay figure. I don't really like the face sculpt on this one. I don't think they did a good job of capturing the look for Nathan Fillion with it. I also don't like how some of the joints look on this figure. I think the articulation is decent, and you know, again, I really haven't had any breakage issues with this figure, so that's good. Do have that soft gummy joint syndrome with the knees, but I haven't had any actual breakage issues. Paint applications I think are pretty good. I definitely like the accessories on this one. I think those look really nice, and so again, I would say this is it's not a great figure, but it's not a horrible figure either. And if you're a fan of the Firefly TV series or of Nathan Fillion's, then you'll probably want to pick this one up and add it to your collection. Otherwise, you might want to pass. Of course, if you're not really a fan of the show, I don't know why you'd be interested in this line anyway. But again, I would say this is an okay figure. So that's my review. As always, we'll have a full gallery of images of this figure over at toynewseye.com. There's a link in the description below for that. And we ask, if you're so inclined, please like the video, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll catch you later.